Families trust their schools to keep their children safe during the day. And thanks to the efforts of millions of teachers, principals, and staff all across America, the majority of our schools remain safe havens for our nation's youth. The unfortunate reality is, however, that school districts in this country may be touched either directly or indirectly by a crisis of some kind at any time. Natural disasters such as floods, earthquakes, fires, and tornadoes can strike a community with little or no warning. School shootings, whether they're threatened or actual, are extremely rare, but they are horrific and chilling when they do occur. As we all know, the events of September 11th and other subsequent scares have ushered in a new age of terrorism. Communities across the country are struggling to understand and avert acts of terror. Children and youth rely on and find great comfort in the adults who protect them. Thus, teachers and staff must know how to help their students through a crisis and return them home safely. Knowing what to do when faced with a crisis can be the difference between calm and chaos, between courage and fear, and between life and death. There are thousands of fires that occur in schools throughout the world every year, but yet there is minimal damage to life and property because staff and students are prepared. This preparedness needs to extend to all risks that schools face. Schools and districts need to be ready to handle any crisis, whether it's large or small, to keep our children and staff out of harm's way and ready to learn and to teach. The plan for developing a crisis plan is to include a lot of different areas. It needs to address a range of events that are caused both by nature and by people, such as the natural disasters of earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods. We have the severe weather issues of tornado and other issues related to that. Fires, chemical or hazardous material spills, bus crashes, school shootings, bomb threats, medical emergencies, student or staff deaths, either intentional or unintentional, and outbreaks of disease or infections, and other issues that do occur. Crisis management involves 4 phases, and we're going to look at these very briefly. Mitigation and prevention is the phase that addresses what the schools and the districts can do to reduce or eliminate the risk to life and property. Preparedness is the second phase, which focuses on being ready and have a process in place for planning for the worst case scenario. The response is devoted to the specific steps that each responsible person takes during a crisis. And then the last phase is recovery. Recovery is dealing with how to restore the learning and teaching environment after a crisis. Crisis management is a continuous process in which all phases of that plan are to be reviewed and revised regularly. Good plans are never finished. They can always be updated based on experiences and research and other current trends as well. In developing the crisis plan, the key people that you need to have involved are the stakeholders. These are the people who are concerned about the safety of the school and the people who will be called on for assistance when a crisis occurs. And certainly that involves a lot of different personnel. It involves your school administrators and district administrators, which include transportation department, food service, maintenance, nursing, and others. It includes teachers at the local school levels, parents, students, community leaders, members of your law enforcement, emergency management agencies, and other local agencies such as health departments, your local hospital if you have one, utility departments including electric, gas, and water. These are stakeholders who should have an active part in the development of your school district crisis plan. Intergovernmental agreements are common methods for neighboring jurisdictions to pool their resources and services. The result of intergovernmental cooperation through these agreements provides a significant cost savings, it provides better efficiency, and overall better service to the community and coordinated management. For example, a school may be used as a disaster shelter location by the county government. Then in return, county facilities could be used as relocation sites for emergencies for school districts. Example being a park that might have fenced-in areas. It may have a gymnasium, and that is one of the locations that could be used for relocation if a school had to move out for some reason. Another example of this would be the use of school buses, where county government may want to use that or need to use your school buses in the event of an emergency situation. In the development of intergovernmental agreements, these should be done by the legal counsel of your school district. Among the areas to take into consideration for these agreements is, of course, the definition of the parties involved, the purpose of the agreement, what are the services that are going to be offered and performed, information about any financial or physical situations that come up, who are going to be the administrative contacts, personnel involved, very important about the legal liabilities and the insurance, and then of course the duration and the termination and withdrawal if one wants to make on the agreement. In any crisis situation, one of the areas that you will always hear comes up as a major concern is communication. A couple of things to take into consideration. One is to try and use common terminology. It's very easy for law enforcement agencies and school districts to utilize abbreviations and letter codes and things like that everyone don't understand. So in a crisis situation involving all these groups, very important to include common terminology. Also, you want to make sure the district identifies several different modes of communication for internal and external, meaning having the ability to communicate within the administrators of the school district and the ability to communicate externally with your first responders and other emergency personnel. This would include walkie-talkies, cell phones, other modes of communication. One area to always keep in mind is the bus radios. A lot of times you may lose power on communication gear, but the bus radios may still be up and available for use. Also, you want to make sure you have an adequate supply of communication gear. Example being having enough walkie-talkies that you could share with emergency first responders so that you could communicate. Some districts have the ability to communicate with their current walkie-talkies directly with first responders and law enforcement. If you don't have that, you want to have a plan in place so that there can be intercommunication between members of the school district and the emergency personnel. And you want to make sure your district has the ability to immediately notify parents and the community of any crisis situation. There are many parent notification systems where parents can be notified via telephone calls, text messages, emails. If your district does not have that, then please you want to consider that, because this provides valuable and immediate communication to parents in the event of a crisis. Also, each district should have identified a public information officer. This is a person who is specified in a school district to be the spokesperson with the media or any other modes similar to that. If you have someone who is not very familiar with that part of job responsibility, there are courses that are available on public information officers. This is available through the Georgia Public Service Training Center in our state, and GEMA, Georgia Emergency Management Agency, can provide additional information on that as well. The emergency preparedness of the crisis plan includes two phases. One is emergency operations plans. The emergency operation plan is really the meat of what you have in place in the event of an emergency. This should be reviewed annually and revised annually because there are always additional changes that may come up that need to be looked at. The first thing in developing of the plan is to evaluate your district needs, evaluate your individual school needs. Example could be you may have a school that is located close to railroad tracks that's active in case you had a chemical spill. You could have a school that is located near a chemical factory. These are things you would look at and evaluate individually for those locations. And you would assess the safety and security of each of those schools and look at the individual needs of each one. You then would look at the development of multi-hazard emergency responses, the development of your first responder coordination, who's going to be coming, who's coming to help you, what's going to happen when that does happen, and the coordination with that. And then you want to have in your plan specifics on natural and man-made incidents such as tornadoes, hurricanes, fires, floods, bomb threats, threats of violence, relocation, school relocations. And then the last thing is to have implementation procedures, which means you want to have drills you want to be able to look at and understand exactly what needs to be done, and that the school personnel understand all their responsibilities. We'll talk a little bit more about the drills a little bit later on in the presentation. The other piece of the emergency preparedness is continuity of operations plans. This is also known as a COOP. A COOP is a program that ensures the continued performance of the essential functions across a full range of potential emergencies, whether they're natural or man-made. A simple question to ask for the school district: if one or more of our facilities or functions becomes unusable, do we have a complete plan in place to continue our operations? That is the key question, and that's what the continuity of operations plan is designed to do. The COOP provides guidance and it establishes responsibilities and procedures. Now, the COOP is not the same as the emergency operation plan, but it rather supplements it in the event a normal facility or human resources are not available. An example being, if there was a fire, an explosion, or a tornado at one of your schools on a weekend, do you have a plan in place? How would you address all of the specific areas to continue the operation of that school as normal as possible? Another example, if your district office was involved with a fire, explosion, tornado damage, do you have a plan in place to continue the overall operation of your school now that your district office is unusable? So that is the continuity of operation plans that are in place. And then, of course, the implementation of the training and the processes that you have put together in these plans has to be practiced, and that's through drills. You have to make sure that, first of all, the employees in the schools and the school district, as well as the students, are trained and understand what they are to do in the event of these crisis situations. Emergency drills should be scheduled regularly for fire drills, for severe weather, for bomb threats, lockdowns. These cover a wide variety of areas, and it's important to note that that there are certain requirements for some of these drills, and then there are local requirements of the local school district makes a determination of how often these are done. So this is one of the areas that is very important, that each year complete drills are implemented and processed.